So we're not going to go into a lot of detail about our outreach circle. Robin, have you managed to get signed on to outreach circle yet?
I don't think so.
Okay. And I'll be sure and send you guys the link to this presentation, so you can just use the links on your screen. We're not going to watch the supporter demo to figure out how you become a supporter, but it's right there. It'll talk you through it. And instead, we'll talk a little bit about what we're doing on Outreach Circle from now until the election. One of the things we have going right now, where can I put this so it's out of the way, um, is something we're calling Triple Your Vote. And so, you know, the first step is you got to be on Outreach Circle to be able to easily do it. But especially if you put Outreach Circle on your phone, then it can link directly to your contacts. So you're going to pick like 3 of your friends that you think are maybe sort of unlikely to vote, maybe some young people you might know or something. And so then periodically throughout the election season, there will be reminders that then you can text to these 3 people. So like here's the first one we have going. And you know, when you scroll through our actions, you know it's a Triple Your Vote action by the lovely Vote Donut. So you just have to look for that graphic, and then you know, okay, there's another deadline I want to send to somebody. So right now we're just pushing the early voting application, and it's a link for where they can print that out and send it in. And just reiterating that you can email that, you know, you don't have to actually mail it in. You can take a picture of your application and send it. But so then we'll have some more reminders coming up, like when early vote, like before early voting ends, we'll have, you know, like this is the last day you can register, different things coming up. So that's how we do the Triple Your Votes. You just have to look for the Vote Donut, and then you can send those on to just even 3 people. I got a little carried away and I sent it to 5 because I was like, I know all these young people anyway. But so definitely sign on to that through our outreach circle. And yeah, no donuts were harmed in the making of this presentation except for one. Sorry, I had to eat it after I took a picture. So Mike, do you want to talk a little bit about what's going on with election protection this year?
Yes. Our election protection program, as you may already be aware, since 2012, Civic Nebraska has had volunteers go to random polling places in Omaha and Lincoln and greater Nebraska. And of course, with COVID, that all changed dramatically for the May 12th primary. I don't believe we had anybody at that time go to polling places. What we did, though, we had several people do contactless poll observation, and I did that myself. It's pretty painless. You just basically you're driving around to different polling places and just observing, recording your observations, basic things like that you can see from the safety of your car, such as are people having a hard time getting in and out of the entrances? Is there anybody putting signs too close to the entrance or passing out literature too close? Are the lines long? Having said that, I personally drove to 40 different polling places in Omaha on May 12th. And of course, because vote by mail was predominantly the way everybody went, there was hardly anybody at the polls. And we expect more people going to the polls for the general election, although vote by mail is probably going to dominate again. But just by nature of the fact that by virtue of the fact that they're going to have more people going to the polls. And we're going to try and we're asking election protection volunteers if they feel safe, if they feel comfortable actually going to a poll, they're welcome to do that. But if not, then the next best thing would be to just do it from the safety of your own vehicle. The other thing too is that you can, and I'm not sure how this is going to work, but Brad and John have said that people can also, from the safety of their own home, do some observation on social media as well. Probably going on our Facebook and just maybe asking people that you know if they've gone to vote, what their experience was like, if they had any problems, and if there was if any kind of a problem or whatever, you could let us know, and then we could record that data, and we use the data to, if we see a trend, then we can make recommendations to the different election commissions. I asked John, I talked to him earlier today about when our next online training is going to be for EPP. And they're actually having one on September 28th. That one is going to be geared towards attorneys. We are recruiting some lawyers and attorneys to go to polling places. I think mostly in response to the fact that we've heard rumors that a group called True the Vote, and we'll talk about that True the Vote might be recruiting their volunteers to go to polling places. But as we understand it, True the Vote is more, their intentions are more nefarious, and there's nothing impartial or nonpartisan about what they're about. So we're going to have some experts there in election law, just in case. And so that training for the attorneys is going to be on September 28th. We don't have a date set for the next training for our regular EPP, but John said it would probably be sometime the first week in October. So if you or anybody that you know would be interested in doing our election protection this year in some form, any way, shape, or form, there's a link at the bottom there. You can click on that and sign up that way, or you can go to the link on our website and do it then as well. So that's I think that's it for election protection for now.
And Margaret, I will give you the names of the people that volunteered for me for election protection.
Yeah.
And contact them and fill them in and do the whole thing with them.
Awesome.
Because I had people do all of the places in Hastings, so
awesome.
We were pretty well covered there.
Hopefully, if nothing else, we can at least have people drive over to, observe from remote observation if they aren't comfortable going inside. I did some in Hastings and Grand Island during the primary. I visited quite a few of the polling places. The only thing that was interesting was to report was when I was like at the fairgrounds here in Hastings, and the National Guard was there. Wasn't related to voting, but they were doing COVID testing that day. But there were several cars that pulled into the parking lot and then left. And I didn't know, maybe they came to vote and then they saw all these soldiers around and whatnot and were intimidated and left. But, that's the only, otherwise, yeah, it was pretty quiet because most people would be voting for mail. So as Mike mentioned, it has been observed in several newspapers throughout the state, advertisements from True the Vote for election observers. So I did include some links to some articles that talk about True the Vote and what they've done. Primarily, they organized in Texas initially, but they're reaching out this year. They have been really heavy in pushing voter ID. They're probably why some states even have it. But we don't know at this point how well organized they are in Nebraska, but they've been advertising. So one of the things that's in our favor is we had a very unsexy bill pass this last legislative session that really stipulated how election observation has to be conducted, and it's primarily the way we've been doing it because we helped draft the bill. So it should also prevent groups from harassing voters and voter intimidation, but those are some of the things that True the Vote has been accused of doing. They have falsified signatures. They're just not a nice group. So if you want to read some more about them, there's some articles there. But it is a real reason why we are pushing maybe a little bit more in-person observation than we would have otherwise if we didn't know they were hanging around. But they're hanging around. So
yeah, and then like Margaret was saying about the part of that bill that gave our election protection some protections. Up until now, it's like there was no statute that said that we could be there, and there wasn't any statute that said we couldn't be there. But now this makes it so we're completely legit, and we're, you know, they all know we're going to be there, and so that's a good thing.
Yeah. And it, you know, it's any citizen can go in and observe elections, but if you're with an organization, now there is a structure that you need to comply with in order to do it. And it's written as we've been doing it. So there won't really be any change to how we do it, but it should keep other groups more in line. So we also have exciting news because Heather will be moving out of her census role, and we were all like really sad because we're like, oh, Heather could be done. But she is now transitioning to our Get Out the Vote efforts. So we'll let Heather talk about what she's got going on in those areas.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Hello. So as you know, getting out the vote is going to be primarily phone banking, considering the pandemic and safety precautions. So we won't be going door to door, but we are calling voters to encourage them to vote and assist them with their questions. So that traditional goal of turning out voters come election day. So the virtual phone bank feature, which I think, John and Robin, I think you have used before. So it's user-friendly, as you know. It's online. You go to a website, plug in a code, and it's all automatic. So it's pretty convenient to make the calls from the comfort and safety of your own home. And then, sorry, that's a loud car. Also, I do have a quick training on just canvassing and election information to equip anybody for calls. So if you know somebody, I'm happy to schedule that anytime. And then I wanted to drop a couple quick reminders as we all are kind of gearing up in our own ways to get out the vote. And we want to encourage everybody to vote, knowing that checking the registration status and making sure it's up to date, that's very important. You can be turned away for having information that's not up to date, and then making that voting plan. So that's what we're doing right now on the calls. We want to prompt folks who may not have thought about it yet, which method they plan to use to vote, but also get a feel for the voters that we're contacting if they plan to vote in person or vote by mail. Also remembering that we need to request the vote by mail ballot ASAP. So with that, knowing that there is a potential for a delayed delivery with the Postal Service, and so we want to make sure everybody requests the ballot ASAP and mails back each thing pretty early. So we have specific days on that I cover in the training if anybody's interested. And then finally, of course, getting in-person voters to the polls. So I know we've talked before about, if there's an issue of transportation, childcare, getting time off from work, all of the different things that could stand as barriers to folks casting their vote. We just want to make sure that we consider that and help people turn out best we can. So I just wanted to also provide a quick update on the census. It does end at the end of this month, September 30th, right now as it stands. So just to give you an idea, with COVID, they extended that timeline, which I know you all are aware of here. So originally it would go through October 31st, and I'll talk about that in just a second, how we're now at September 30th. But right now, census workers are visiting households as part of the non-response follow-up period. So that began in August, and they're following up with any households that have not yet done their census. But it's also really important to know that the Census Bureau is also calling households, and they're trying to do the census on the phone, and it's pretty fishy for some people when they receive the call. So we just want to make sure everybody is aware of that, and that we can help community members, navigate that confusion to verify if it was in fact a census taker, Census Bureau employee that called. I do want to shout out our state though. Nebraska has remained among the top 5 states for self-response this whole period. So yeah, I believe we're at 4th place, and we were about to surpass 71% of our self-response rate, which was our 2010 self-response rate. So that's huge. That was the goal. It's 100%, of course. Now we want to get to 100, but we're doing a great job, I should say.
Well, that's amazing, because again, we didn't have any support through, the governor, making us committing to being a complete count state. So the fact that we have met what we did previously is pretty remarkable. Good work, Heather.
Thank you. Absolutely. It's great that we've had the team that we've had, the volunteers that we've had, and the canvassers to work with to reach out to folks and make sure everybody knows about the census, and it encourages them to do it. But yeah, it was an interesting start of how this all came together. But Nebraska Counts really showed up to the mark. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some ongoing litigation. There is still an ongoing push for Congress to pass legislation, but I want to start with the litigation first. And so there's an ongoing case regarding this timeline replan. And so what that refers to is how I mentioned originally, the timeline was extended to October 31st. That was based on the request for Congress to extend the statutory deadlines for delivering the actual count. The statutory deadline is December 31st. So on a normal non-COVID year, they'd have from July to December to have like a nearly 6-month data processing period. And so with this extended timeline, that was changed, and it would have only left the last 2 months of the year then for the data processing period. Right now, as it stands, Congress has not responded to that request for relief, as they call it. It had been proposed in a couple COVID relief packages, but they were not passed. And so as it stands, December 31st is still the deadline. So with that in consideration, between the Trump administration and the Census Bureau, they created this replan where the Census data collection would end on September 30th. And so bringing it a month backward, it does threaten the accuracy of the count. During non-response follow-up, usually the census takers would visit a household a number of times to try to follow up and get that census done in person. Right now they're at like 1 visit and 1 call, and then they're relying on administrative records and other sources and really less than adequate methods. And so the ongoing litigation, it's occurring in, I believe, California. Judge Koh recently ordered a temporary restraining order for the Census Bureau to stop shutting down early. And so this comes from the irreparable harm, where if you're laying people off, it's going to be harder to rehire them. Similarly, the quality of the count, it'll be terrible for the next 10 years, right?
Yeah.
So with that, there's a temporary hold on that, but there's going to be a hearing September 17th where the administration and Census Bureau has been asked to provide the internal documents that led to this decision making. It's what's the word? Alleged that it's a very political move. I also wanted to mention litigation around the executive memo, where the president shared that immigrants, specifically undocumented immigrants, should not be included in the count. And that since has been ruled, again, unconstitutional, unlawful, and it will not stand. So all persons count, all whole persons count, as the Constitution reads. So that was the win, right? And so now we're just kind of waiting on this other case that's regarding the timeline. And so a couple different outcomes could occur. The problem is kind of this in-between area that we're at, because the data processing period at this point has to end on December 31st. So right now, having 3 months to process the data is what the Census Bureau is kind of rolling with the reason for this replan. However, on the flip side, shortening the count doesn't increase the quality of the data. So what we need is a full data collection period and a full data processing period. And so it's a really interesting spot we're in. It can get kind of confusing. My bet is, of course, by the end of the month, we will know. And so if there's a miracle and we get back to the October 31st deadline for data collection, that would be great. We would keep doing the work and hopefully get a more accurate count. On the other side of it, yeah, there's a lot of different ways it can go. I would say right now we're just following it closely and seeing how that tips that scale. But I would say for right now, those are kind of the updates on those ongoing things. Ideally, if Congress extended the statutory deadline to April, that would also be ideal. So those are a couple pending things that we could see some updates about at the next month's chapter meeting. Really quick, I do have an action for you all. Just sharing how easy it was to complete your census. We've done a lot of outreach to try to, target audiences that haven't done theirs, et cetera. But I think even us just sharing our own story and our own experience with it, whether that's on social media or to a group of peers, I think that can also be very powerful just to show how easy and simple it is. So those are my updates. Thank you for being a great team. And I'm sure we'll have questions at the end.
Thanks for the update, Heather. Yeah, it's, with working all the way out here, I don't always know what's going on with what you got all going on. So it's good to hear what you've been working on. Mike, do you want to talk about our takeout voter promoter?
Takeout voter promoter. That's Margaret's clever title for this promotional thing that we're doing to try and just get the word out about what we're doing, and it's a way that our VRAs can promote safely voting in lieu of conducting higher risk the voter registration in person. And I've been doing a little more of that here lately, but I always make sure that when I do it, I'm in a place where masks are required. And like today, I was outdoors, which makes me feel a little better. And so, but this is a safe way to do it. And what we're doing here is, if you guys know of a restaurant that you might frequent, and I don't know people who manage it or anything, but I live just a few blocks from an Applebee's, and I'm going to go there and just talk to the manager. And they do a lot of carry-out business. I also live right across on the other side of the parking lot, there's a Buffalo Wild Wings. So I will go in there and ask those managers of those places if they would be willing to, and of course, the whole thing is contingent upon the fact that we're nonpartisan. We don't promote any party. We don't promote any candidates or anything like that. So my hope is that they will see fit to take these stickers that have our QR code on there and place the stickers on all of their takeout containers and bags and whatnot, so people can see that. And so, Robin, if you know of any place in Hastings that you think might be interested in doing that, helping us out with that, just let Margaret know, and we'll get you the stickers, and we'll get the stickers to the management of whatever the establishment that is. I suppose it could be a liquor store. You know?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Wouldn't
That's
have
how
to be
it
a
does it.
restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah. It could even actually be like a grocery store. I hadn't thought of that either. My goodness, we could just do it all over the.
Yeah, wherever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is our become a takeout voter promoter.
So yeah, because I know clear all around the country, voting is voter registration is just down everywhere because of COVID. So one way we could do that and be safe. Coming up on the 17th of September is National Constitution Day. More of a big deal with educational institutions, but we do have a video. It's John Cartier and I talking about the history of the ratification of the Constitution. So on the 17th, if you could share our video on social media and just sort of get people enthusiastic that we have such a thing. It's generally a good thing. Also coming up later this month again is National Voter Registration Day, which is September 22nd. In the past, we would all be out doing different voting events. We've partnered with the League of Women Voters on this day quite a bit. But again, it's going to be a little bit more low key. Not quite so much in-person registration. So the QR code there will take people to the Secretary of State's website to either print out their early voting application. It will also, they can register to vote online, or they can also print out the voter application. So, go ahead and share the QR code on social media just on the 22nd. Try and get people excited. It's also Mimuta's birthday, but whatever. So our next chapter meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, October 13th at 6:30. We didn't do it on a Monday because that is Indigenous Persons Day / used to be Columbus Day, and our offices are closed. So we will meet next month on Tuesday at this time, and Mike and I will have completely mastered Zoom meetings by that point in time. Lordy. Do you have any questions, Robin?
No, I think that's good.
Okay. I have one. This is for you, Margaret. What would we have done if we hadn't decided to invite Heather tonight?
We would have run away with our tails between our legs.
Yeah.
It was a thunderstorm.
So thank you, Heather.
Yeah, thank you, Heather.
And this is a standing invitation. Whenever we have a chapter meeting, whether you're your voting rights now, even though we're still in the census, your voting rights. So you're invited to every time we have one. So
Yeah, that I swore I had set that so we wouldn't have a password. Erg, but there you go. Yeah, live and learn. All right, well, that's pretty much it for this month. If you think of somewhere, Robin, you want to, start that sticker program, let me know, and I will get that list from you of people who did the election protection in Hastings last time.
Sure.
Sounds good.
Good.
All right. Well, good to see you all. How